watching Power 4 with my uncle and my daddy.
Hey, yo, what it do? It's Big Dirty. I'm rocking with Power 4, Real and Wood.
What's up? My name is Justin Austin. I'm from Chattanooga, Tennessee. Make sure y'all check out the new podcast called Power 4 with Real and Wood, man. They talking about everything basketball, man. Make sure y'all check it out as soon as possible. You ain't got nothing else better to do but sit at home, work, listen to music, and listen to podcasts. So might as well add this one to the list. Make sure y'all check it out, man. These dudes some cool cats, and they know what they're talking about. Peace.
It's your girl Dexter Lewis over here at We Working, and I am definitely rocking with the squad, Real and Wood. Make sure y'all go check them out.
Yo, this is DeMonte Simpson, and I'm Power 4 with Real and Wood.
Hello, this is Mr. C, a.k.a. Clarence Swearingen, Knoxville, Tennessee, and I'm rocking with Real and Wood on Power 4.
My name is Coach Nick Marshall, boys coach at Vine Middle School and head coach with TPE, Team Passion Elite, and I'm rocking with Real and Wood on Power 4.
Welcome back to another great episode with your boy Real and Wood on Power Forward. Wood, I'm excited.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We have Mr. 5-Star Prep in the building, Jesse Smithey.
What's up, guy?
Jesse, before we get started, I know you've seen the episode before. You know, I have to ask you, what has been your most embarrassing moment, either on a golf course or reporting?
Man, I'm going to take it way back. I'm going to take it back to junior high, what people might know as middle school up here, but back where I grew up, it was junior high. It's 7th and 8th grade, and starting point guard, man. We were on a road trip, and we got to the gym, and you know, you sit up in the stands for your first couple quarters, right, through the girls' game, and then third quarter you go back and start to get dressed. So I go back in the dressing room, I pull my uniform out, and it's soaking wet. Shorts, jersey, it's all wet. So like, I'm the starting point guard, and nobody's gonna trade jerseys with me. I played the whole game. I'm talking about I had to wring it out. And it was just wherever my bag was on the bus, it got drenched. So I had to play the whole game in the soaking wet uniform. And this is back in the early 90s. So, you know, it didn't have all the good stuff like they had now.
Right.
So it's that was my most embarrassing moment. And we lost that game too. So tough night.
Oh, man. So, Jesse, man, for all the people who don't know you, tell them where you're from, sir.
Yeah, man. So I was born in Memphis, Tennessee, long time ago, back in '79, and I grew up in West Tennessee, in a small town called Humboldt, about 10 minutes north of Jackson, Tennessee. And grew up there and graduated high school at Humboldt in 1997. Came over to school at Tennessee in '97. That was Peyton Manning's senior year. And man, I loved it on this side of the state so much more. And so got done with school and just set up shop here. I got hired at the Knoxville News Sentinel in 2002, in August of 2002, and just stayed there. I stayed there for 12 years and just kind of worked my way up the ladder, covering high school sports, and I never really wanted to dabble in college sports or any of that. I just really found a niche with high school sports and grew to love it, and that's kind of where I've been since.
Cool, man. That's a cool experience, man. You know, coming from West Tennessee, man, I know growing up you probably had a good chance to see some really good basketball and some really good players growing up.
I did. I grew up on Memphis State basketball, and so that meant Elliot Perry and Anthony Hardaway and Lorenzen Wright, and just, I mean, that was it. You know, I used to go to the Mid-South Coliseum with my parents, and I didn't know much about Tennessee football. I mean, I knew it existed, but you know, being born in Memphis and growing up in a basketball just household and family, man, we love the Memphis State Tigers. And of course they changed over to University of Memphis. So got to see a lot of great college basketball games, got to see a lot of great high school players. Tony Delk, never forget picking up the paper one day and seeing he had dropped 72 on somebody from Haywood. And of course he went up to Kentucky to play. And so, it was a good chance to see a lot of good quality high school basketball for sure.
Definitely.
For sure, man.
So Jesse, around here, man, who would you say has been your favorite player to cover?
Ooh, that's like in basketball?
In basketball, yeah, definitely.
Man, that's tough. And I've been doing it for so long. I'd say as you know, that time from '07 to 2011 here in Knoxville was special.
Yeah.
And you're talking about Dre Matthew and Ty Green and Rico White and James Gallman and Jalen Steele and Lester Wilson. And I mean, I can just go on and on and on. I mean, and Brandon Lopez. I mean, I got to know all those guys really well and still keep in touch with them, whether it's by text message or social media. So I don't know if it's one, but just that collective group, that 4 or 5 year run was just really special. And I think at the time we probably didn't appreciate it as much as we should have. All the state championships that were won, not only in boys basketball, but girls basketball. But I think everybody knows I got a pretty good friendship now with Dre Matthew and everything that he and I went together to try to get him into pro basketball. So he would be the one that I still keep in contact with the most. But, you know, I came to see Whittle play last year and got the chance to catch up with Jalen Steele. And I hadn't seen him, you know, and now Lester Wilson's got a gym that he's opening up and seeing that on social media. So all you boys are getting old now, bro. And it's good to see y'all succeeding. And so that's what, when I first started in the business, they said, you'll feel old when you start to see like the guys you cover grow up and have kids and you start covering their kids. And so I know those days are right around the corner.
Yeah.
Right. For sure, man. So Jesse, man, one thing that I was real excited to talk to you about, you know, me and Linwood had kind of talked about this, was the whole 5-star prep thing. Because I moved here, I think in '06, the summer of '06, and was just coaching AAU, you know, going to Memphis, going to Atlanta, going to Charlotte, Indianapolis, you know, trying to take some of the guys from around here to the bigger cities, to the high profile tournaments. And one thing I started noticing with like Memphis, you know, it was real easy for me to get online and find information and kind of find out what's going on in Memphis, who's who, before I even went down there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and when I kind of was looking around this area, I felt like we didn't have anyone shining a light on East Tennessee for what it, you know, for what it was, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And when you came up and I started noticing this 5-star prep stuff, man, I was excited because I felt like it was a good thing, a good way to get publicity out for our kids and showing what we're doing in East Tennessee with our community.
Man, I appreciate that. Yeah, it was, I can't take credit for the idea. It wasn't mine. You know, I left the newspaper back in 2014. I think everybody knows people would just quit reading newspapers. Social media kind of took over. And so everybody was just kind of force-fed information in different ways. And so me at that time being in my kind of mid-30s, I was like, man, I might have to start a new career because, you know, newspapers, you can just read the writing on the wall. My future wasn't there anymore.
Right.
And so I left the newspaper business. I ran Prep Extra for all those years over at the News Sentinel, and we did some fun things and did a really good job, I thought, of covering high school sports better than anybody. But, you know, having a family, having kids, and just kind of looking to the future, I took a step away and said, man, I got to do something different. I got to try to cut my own path somehow. And so I got into the sales world with synthetic turf, and I still did some media stuff on the side, just freelance thing here and there. But probably right around the fall of 2017, I had some guys that I know, businessmen here in town. They're like, Jesse, man, it's just not the same anymore. We can't get box scores in the paper. We can't do this, that, or the other. We got to do something. And so at the time, we just started brainstorming, you know, what could we do? And they said, well, I mean, are you going to be able to do this full time? And I was like, well, if I do this full time, then it's got to be awesome from the jump. I mean, it's got to be awesome from day one. It can't just start off as a little bitty blog and hope we, you know, get a followership. You know, it's got to be, the website's got to be awesome from day one. And we got to kind of announce it with some hype and some electricity around it. And so we were able to do that. These guys were able to pull together their resources and put up the money to build this website. And from, I would say, January 2018 to about May 1 of 2018, we just did our best to generate publicity and hype, because we debuted May 14th, I think, of 2018, right before all the spring sports state championships. So we felt like at that time we need to have a couple of months under our belt of just people looking at us and seeing what we're about before football starts.
Yeah.
And so we debuted there in May of 2018, and man, the community welcomed us with open arms and loved what we were doing, and we, nothing had been done like this before. People paying for online content for high school sports. I mean, we were taking a big chance, and so we've got a good mixture of people who are subscribing to the site, supporting high school athletics that way. We got sponsorship dollars coming in for various things, and so we're almost to our third birthday, I guess. And so it's been awesome to see East Tennessee show us love and latch on to what we're doing. And we still got bigger plans in the works. We still want to do bigger and better things and provide, like you said, that light to shine on East Tennessee athletes. And hopefully we can get there.
Yeah, I mean, just from playing in East Tennessee, seeing East Tennessee grow, man, you don't know how much of a blessing you have been to kids like us, like me, because we don't get that publicity most of the time. Most of the time, if you see an article about East Tennessee, it's small. And Memphis takes up most of the page, and then it's East Tennessee, few names. Now it's like, man, 5-star prep covers every school.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean,
that's big.
I can't remember how many we have now, but our footprint in East Tennessee keeps growing. Every now and then we'll get an email from a certain school that, hey, why aren't we in the mix? We're just as close as Greenville is. Why aren't you covering ours? And so we'll say, all right, well, come on. And so we'll start covering them. And so the more people invest in us, the more we can invest in East Tennessee and beyond, and keep growing our brand. And to be honest, I mean, that's why we didn't name ourselves anything like Knoxville Preps or East Tennessee, because we have aspirations of growing this not only statewide, but maybe, who knows, 10 years down the road, we're in Atlanta, we're in Charlotte, we're in Kentucky, and in various places around the South. So we'll see where it goes. But right now we're enjoying being in East Tennessee. And like you mentioned, Wood, it's all about kids, man, and showcasing them and giving them fun stuff to be a part of, and their parents and grandparents and families and fans to watch and to listen to and to read. And the more we can put out, the better.
Yeah,
For sure. Man, another thing I noticed, man, you was talking about the foot traffic that you all have created. I wanted to ask you, man, how many guys are helping y'all out? Because I'm up here like, man, they got to have an
that's
army
a good question, bro.
people to
Yeah.
come, to keep up with all these games
Yeah.
and and video footage and stuff, man. I've been surprised at the different places that y'all have been. I've seen y'all out at Harriman to see my guy Jordan.
Yeah.
You guys are all the way out in Greenville. You here in Knoxville. So how does that work, man? If you don't mind me asking.
Well, I mean, it's you look back on it and you see God's hand in it all, man. Just the people that He's brought into my life, and especially back into my life when we started 5-star preps. As I mentioned, man, the newspaper industry kind of went down, and so there were 3 or 4 writers that worked with me at the New Sentinel who weren't writing for anybody. And
Right.
so when we started this, I was like, hey, come on, I got a spot for you. And these are guys who've done it for 20, 30 years. I mean, they know East Tennessee football and basketball just as well as I do, if not better, because a lot of them were born here and raised here. And then we had a photographer, Danny Parker, who is just unbelievable. I mean, he was covering Tennessee athletics for Big Time Recruiting Services. And right around the same time we were building the website, he stepped away and was looking for extra work. So we brought him on. And so when I think people saw the quality of work we were doing, after a few months, they started coming to us like, hey, I want my pictures on the website or on your social media, or I want to write for you. And so the thing that we've tried to do all along is keep it high quality. We all went to journalism school, and we all spent years learning how to write our stories or take videos or photography. And so we try to keep it at that high of a standard as long as we can, because we want people to feel like they're getting their money's worth. But man, this year we started doing documentary films. There was a guy named Sam Scott who shot video for VFL Films.
Yeah.
And he just kind of landed in our lap. And that's what I say, man, you look back and you see what God's done. I mean, you just put your head down and work and let Him bring the people in our plan that's supposed to be in it and in our path, and just go, and don't even really take a step to look back, and you just keep working and grinding and doing the best you can.
For sure, man. I love that, man. I love that, man. It's funny, not funny, but it's ironic that God has a way of getting his people together, right?
It does, and it's I didn't think I'd ever be covering high school sports like this again when I left the newspaper, and he had other plans, and just all the people that I've met through the years that are now helping us out, whether it's the sponsorships from somebody that I met 10 years ago, or it's crazy to see it all work together.
I'm sure, man.
Yeah.
Do you enjoy this more than I guess your previous career, like with the News Sentinel? Is this more exciting? Or
It
is it
is,
like,
yeah, because I mean, you're calling the shots now.
right,
I had some autonomy at the News Sentinel. I had some power to kind of make the choices about which games we got to cover and this, that, and the other. But this all website, we helped design it. We helped, put our input into the logo. We kind of, the feel of it all, the ethos of it all, just its whole being is us. It's not a corporate structure or anything like that. So our ownership group, who maybe put the money together, they don't tell us what to do. They put the trust in us. We're the ones with the experience. We know what works, what doesn't work, and they just let us go. So if we have an idea to do a documentary, we go do it. If we got an idea to broadcast a game, we go do it. We don't have to run it up the chain for anybody. And it's that freedom that comes with being your owner. Basically, you're the owner, you're the editor. That's what's fun and exciting. And so but it's scary too. If your website starts doing bad for a little bit, that's on you.
right,
So
right.
or if you're not getting advertising dollars, or subscriptions are going down or whatever, that could be on you. That could be something you're doing wrong. So you put yourself under the microscope a lot, just like a coach would when their players aren't playing well. You start to look at things. Hey, what's going wrong? What can I do to get better? And so we're always looking at that, looking toward the future, things we can bring to the site or bring to our brand to make it fresh and innovative, but also keeping the old school elements to it as well. So it's fun, it's exciting, it's new every day, it's new every season, and so yeah, I would say I enjoy it a little bit more now.
So Jesse, tell us what all sports that 5 Star Prep covers.
So we cover everything that's under the TSSAA umbrella. That's it. I mean, everybody, of course, knows in Knoxville football is the bell cow, but we're deep into basketball season right now. On Tuesdays and Fridays, we're sending 3, 4, 5 guys out, and on nights like Monday and Thursday, if there's good games, we're going out there too. We're starting to dabble a little bit in high school wrestling, and I'm gonna be honest, I don't know anything about high school wrestling. I don't, but there are guys that work with us who do. And and sometimes when you go to those meets and you tell coaches, like, look, you're going to have to hold my hand a little bit. And sometimes those dumb questions you might ask as a rookie to a certain sport, whether it's volleyball or we got bowling now and all this stuff. I mean, sometimes that gives you good stories. And so when you ask those basic questions, you can really get to the heart of the matter there and learn a little bit more and put something out there that's a really good product. So we're learning about wrestling. We're going to be doing more wrestling, but all the spring sports, your baseball, softball, soccer, track, tennis, we do all that. And we just hope to continue to grow it, man. I mean, there's so much 7-on-7 that goes on during the spring and spring football. We cover all that and try to keep, like I mentioned, football being the main interest. We try to have football stuff all year round, recruiting, coaching changes, 7-on-7. We try to hit up all that, but also make sure we're paying attention to all the other sports as well, because to those people, to those athletes, to those family, it's every bit as important as football or anything else.
Yeah,
Sure.
definitely agree with that.
So Jesse, man, as you know, well, I'm pretty sure I'm a high school coach, and I coach over at Fulton as an assistant, and before that, I was over at Vine.
Mm-hmm.
So websites like yours, I love them. I love them when we win.
Right.
And I ignore you when we lose.
That's the best thing to do. Yeah, I mean, it's the funny thing we always get was like we'll come out to a game and a team will lose and be like, oh, y'all only show up when we lose. Like we can predict, when y'all are going to lose. I mean, that's definitely not the end. But going out to Fulton, we don't see y'all lose very much. And man, I tell you what, man, I'm really looking forward to covering Fulton over the next 3-4 years with the Kimbers and with Tyler Lee. And that's just a trend that we've seen in high school athletics, not just basketball, but football, baseball.
Yeah.
These freshmen, man, when they come to high school, they're ready. They're ready. You know, it used to be a really big deal if a freshman got on the football field for a snap at Maryville, or a freshman got on the court for 2 minutes of meaningful playing time at a Fulton or an Austin East. And now it's just commonplace. So I think back to when I was a kid and watching the Fab Five at Michigan, and just that excitement of seeing like, hey, what are these young cats going to do? And they're going to have moments of brilliance, and they're going to have moments of that just cause frustration and head scratching. But there's a lot of people interested in what those three players are doing at Fulton. And I'm thankful for Wood and Dre for telling me a little bit about them last year. And I got to go out to see them at Whittle and just get a little bit of taste of what they're about. But man, when I saw them reappear this fall at camp, I mean, they look different. They look older. They're looking like more physically developed. And I just, you start to project what they're going to possibly look like as juniors and seniors. And even now, man, we watched them game one, and I watched them on YouTube the other night against West, and you start to see him play harder and more confident. And so it's, Jody Wright knows how to extract the best out of his players, and he's going to get those three guys playing their best, and it's going to be scary here in a year or two.
For sure, man. I will be remiss too to let you know, man, a lot of people are unaware, but we have another freshman, man, that we are real high on, man, that we think whose potential is just as high. And his name is Dexter Lewis.
Yeah.
Okay. Just now starting to get himself in the rotation. And I think you're going to be hearing more from that young man too, as well. You know,
yeah, I see his name in box scores every now and then. It's funny. We had a team lunch the other day with some of our writers and photographers at 5-Star Preps, and we don't get to do it often, but we were talking about, I just released it today on the website, our all 5-Star Preps underclassmen team for football. And this is all the 9th and 10th graders who performed so well this past season. And I said, guys, you know, we have to be careful that we don't judge these 9th graders and 10th graders like we judge an 11th and 12th grader. Because we see them at their earliest point in high school. They're learning the game. They're not physically mature yet. And so a lot of the times is your first impression can kind of last a little too long with some of these kids.
Right.
So I said, guys, we just got to be careful we don't write off a certain player because he may be incredible in 2 years. Or this guy who's awesome right now, you know, he might fizzle out here in a year or two. So we try to be careful of hyping them up too much.
Right.
We want to be able to portray the story of like, hey, these kids are really good. They have the potential to be doing this, but also do it with a little bit of tact and strategies so that we don't put too much pressure on them. And you know, that can backfire in a bad way, as you guys know.
That's point.
Man, you hitting right on something, man, because another thing I was thinking about was the responsibility that you guys have too, that you've taken on. You get what I'm saying? As far as you know, you guys, it's a big responsibility because like you were saying, you were talking about, you don't want to hype kids up too much. You don't want to put them in a place to where maybe I'm giving them putting it out there to where maybe they're better, having them thinking they're better than what they really are and stuff like that. So I appreciate that, being tactful about that, man.
Yeah. And you know, as journalists, especially when you're dealing with high school kids, you got to be careful because you never know what they're going to say. You never know what they're going to say in an interview or on social media. Yeah. And as grown-ups, man, you sometimes you gotta coach them up, even though I think what they say is on the record, you have to be judicious about what you put in a story or what did you put in the newspaper. And that's something I learned a long time ago. And as a journalist, I mean, I was doing these at the time. They're called 10-question interviews in Prep Extra, and so it's just me and a high school kid carrying on a fun conversation. And so sometimes when it gets a little loose, it gets a little light. You know, some crazy stuff comes out of their mouth, and as bad as you want to put it in the story because it's funny, you also know it's probably inappropriate. So, you know, you had to learn early on that these are kids, and now we're seeing them get loose on social media, right? I mean, I can write a story. This kid's got Twitter, and he can put me on blast. And as much as I want to come back at him, sometimes, you know, it might get under my skin. Or this person, you know, I got to remember I'm the grown up here. Let's let's handle this the right way. And so I had an incident last year with a basketball player who, put some inappropriate stuff out about us. He was unhappy with something that we put out. And so as much as I wanted to tweet back at him, I just like, hey, let's take this to the coach and let's handle this like men and like professionals. And so you're right. There comes with a lot of responsibility of not only covering these games and athletes, but doing it in a way that's always going to be best for them.
I agree with that. One key that I wanted to mention, man, and you touched on it earlier, kids coming into high school so much more developed nowadays. Because, man, I can think of a few, especially football players right off the top of my head, like Tommy Winton was ready as soon as he got to Catholic. Jason, the JJ kid from Powell, he was ready as soon as he got to Powell.
Right.
It's like, so with seeing that, and the Bishop kid, Deshaun Bishop.
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Have we seen that before, Jesse?
Not to this magnitude. That's what I was saying earlier. I can think back to 10 years ago, and there was a running back and a lineman out at Maryville who got on the field as freshmen, and they played sparingly, but got on the field during meaningful time, and it was a big deal out there. I mean, that was right at the height of their winning state championships every year, and George Quarles was there, and they were a deep program. But now it's just to be expected. I think one of the things that contributes to that is just maybe overall numbers are down for football. There are a lot of parents who are scared over concussions and things like that. So number one, the opportunity is there for these kids to come and play earlier, but they're training, developing their bodies earlier. They're getting specialized training from guys in the community who maybe either really were great high school players or got to play on the college level. And so they're instituting that knowledge that they learned at whatever peak level they went to, and teaching the next generation of players, so that when they do get to high school, they can play right away, and they can handle the physical nature of football or basketball, or play baseball at a big time level. All the AAU tournaments and 7-on-7 and the travel baseball, it's like being refined by fire, right? It just forges them into different kind of athletes. Whereas in the past, they might play a little 7-on-7 here and there, but you had to come in, you had to play on the freshman team, you had to hit the weight rooms, and then maybe midway through your sophomore year, you might to see a little bit more playing time, and then it was going to be your junior year, right? That all the pressure was on. You had to produce that junior year to really start to get scholarship recognition. And now, I mean, with Elijah Howard, getting offered as a 7th grader by Tennessee a few years ago, and all these baseball players that are coming up into high school now are already committed, and it's just different times now, and that's why these kids, it's important that their coaches, their families, their support groups, or whoever's taking care of them, and they shouldn't have to, but they got to mature a little bit faster. I can't imagine being a 13 or 14-year-old and having college coaches call me and knowing how to handle that mentally in a mature way. And so they're having to grow up faster than normal.
I definitely agree with that.
Definitely, man. So thinking about high school football, what's your favorite rivalry to cover, man?
Oh man, there's good ones. There's really good ones, and I hope one day Fulton and Austin East can return to what it was.
Right.
Back when I started in 2002, I mean, when those two teams played, I mean, it was just packed house.
Yeah.
The electricity, energy around that game, I mean, was unrivaled in the area. And so I want to see it get back, but that one's up there. Your Farragut Bearden is up there. It's always a packed house every year. Maryville Alcoa, though, it's different. When you talk about the history and tradition, and I think now they've won a combined 36 state championships, and really over the last 2 decades, a lot of those championships came within this last 20-year window. And to see those two communities that are only 2 or 3 miles apart, one's a 6A school, one's a 3A school, and then it doesn't matter. Every year when they play, it's seemingly a close game. I mean, you might get a squirrely result every now and then that's a blowout, but for the most part, it's going to be a 4-quarter battle. And even with COVID this year and reduced amount of fans, I mean, that game still had a buzz about it, still had some juice to it. And so I gotta leave my house at like 4 o'clock when they play, just to get into Blount County, avoid the traffic, get a parking spot somewhere. And I'm not the first guy there. I mean, they've been there for hours, and it means the world to them. I mean, players are crying after the game, whether they won or lost. And and so while it doesn't have any bearing on who wins a state championship that year, it means a lot in Blount County. And so to have seen the rise of those two programs to the level that they're at now, I mean, I'm blessed to have covered high school sports during this kind of 20-year time window.
For sure, man. For sure. I think another a cool thing I would imagine is you guys, you go to different high schools, but it's not like you're strangers. So you go back, you see some of the same people, and not only do you meet kids and stuff like that, but I'm pretty sure you guys have got to know a lot of different families that are familiar faces.
Yeah, absolutely. And man, anytime you write a story, and here's the thing, when you go to journalism school, the number one thing that they beat into your brain is to be unbiased. You're just a fly on the wall, you're presenting the facts. But when you write a story of hardship, or somebody's overcome a great obstacle in their life, and you're sitting down with these people and they're opening up their hearts to you, and they're pulling back the veil so you can see into their lives a little bit, you can't help but have a connection to them. So I mean, there are people that I wrote stories about 15 years ago over tough things, and when I see them, it's like, your best friends, and you catch up for a little bit, and you're right, they set up roots in East Tennessee, and they have families, and so it's crazy. Ty Green, who played at Bearden, Taylor Mills, who played at Gibbs, she was a Miss Basketball finalist, and of course, Ty went on to play in the G League, and they're married now, 2 basketball stars that I cover, and they got a kid now. And so it's just seeing them grow as a family in East Tennessee, and some of the other athletes that I've covered, there's some of their kids are in middle school now, or maybe 9th graders. And so you're seeing them coach up their kids and be a part of the community in different capacity in different ways. But yeah, it's whether it's a coach or a player, whether it's a fun story or a tough one to write, you become attached to them in some way. You have some kind of bond with them, and that's the part that I like the most, man. Like you mentioned, going into a gym and seeing somebody, like when I saw Jalen, man, I hadn't seen Jalen Seal in 10, 11 years. Yeah. But you dap him up and you see how he's doing. You see his little one there, and you see his mom, and I got to know his mom a little bit back when I was covering him in high school, and I got to catch up with her, and that's the part that I missed when I left the newspaper and you got into the cold, mean business world and sales and all that stuff, man. There was no loyalty, there was no love, and it was just all business. And to get back in it now, man, it makes you appreciate it even more.
For sure, man. You're a lucky guy, because you just get to be genuine, man, and get to highlight us in a good way, man. I'm envious a little bit. I'm envious, not joking, but seriously, man, we really appreciate you, brother.
Yeah, man, I appreciate that. It's what I love to do, man. I'd be lying if I said when I was coming out of high school and I was in college that I wanted to cover high school sports. I wasn't my dream. I mean, everybody got big dreams. When I first got into journalism, I wanted to be at ESPN or CBS or Sports Illustrated, like every other young kid. But as I got into business and I saw what covering college sports or covering pro sports does to not only the journalist, or what it does to their lives, them traveling so much, being away from their wives and their families, man, I grew to love high school sports. And so when opportunities came up to possibly move up and cover college, no, I want to stay here, and you have more access to these kids and these teams, and it's a more fun environment to be around. And it's like discovering a musician or an artist before they hit it big. You get to see them on the come up, And so when they do go off to college or in the pro, you can tell those stories about, man, I remember when he said this or he couldn't do this, and now look at him. And so it's that part that I like the most, kind of seeing that young talent learning its way through the game and then going on to do big things.
So who did you model your journalism after? Like, was it somebody that's like, man, I like the way he does that?
Well, when I was young, I had this notion that I wasn't going to copy anybody. I wanted my stories to be the best because, you know, they were my words. The problem with that is that you don't learn your craft. You don't watch the veterans and how they create stories and how they weave words and quotes together. And so being young and dumb and just having that kind of mentality in college, I would say put me behind a little bit. I didn't get into journalism until really late in college. I changed majors a bunch, and even though I still made good grades, I didn't really have a path cut out, and just kind of stumbled into a journalism class in college one year, and I graduated third in my high school, and I started failing journalism stuff. Like, man, what is going on? You know, I've always made good grades. I can't do this, and so that fight in you that won't let you fail, you know, that fear of failure just starts pushing you, and you start to learn a little bit about it, and then you start doing some good things, and you push yourself even harder and harder. One of the things I always look back on was, like, even on Saturday mornings, man, I used to get up and get the paper and see, you know, what guys from my high school did in football games. We had this player named Kelsey Williams, who's a Mr. Football. I mean, he was being recruited by everybody in the country. And so I'd always open up the paper, see how many yards Kelsey rushed for, how many touchdowns he scored. And so I had this love for sports, and I had to be around it somehow. And I wasn't good enough to play in college, and I certainly wasn't good enough to play beyond college. So I didn't want to sit in a cubicle and crunch numbers and do all that stuff. It just wasn't me. That's some people's passion. That wasn't mine. Sports was my passion. And so I had this avenue with journalism where I could be around the game. I could be around, you know, professionals. I could be around college players. Like I said, during college, I wasn't really thinking about covering high school sports. So I started attacking it that way and just learning about journalism. And so I would say my first year and a half at the New Sentinel, I just did groundling work, man. I typed in stats. I typed in schedules on Prep Extra and just did a bunch of grunt work and just watched other people do it there and learn from them and hear all the editors bash other people's stories about why they were terrible and, you know, why this story was good. And so I'm just kind of soaking it all up. And so I had that opportunity. I didn't have internships or whatever come out of college, but I learned that way. And so there are a lot of great writers at the New Sentinel. Mike Strange, he was the best game story writer, I think, in the country. And I think there are a lot of journalists in the Southeast that would verify that. And, you know, he was right there sitting 2 desks away from me. So I'd always watch how he would write football game stories and basketball stories and weave all that information in and out of there, but make it just entertaining and informative. So guys like him and John Adams, or a columnist there that was at the New Sentinel that people either loved or hate, you know, I watched him and how he offered up his opinion and how he handled criticism from the public. And so it was just, I mean, we had a good staff there for 5-6 years that I could just learn from. So just blessed to be in that opportunity, in that situation to learn from them.
Sure, man. That's awesome, man. To have great mentors, man. I've kind of found that out as far as being a basketball coach. When I first started, I used to live in Atlanta, Georgia, and man, being able to meet Wallace Prather, rest in peace, who was over the Atlanta Celtics, man, who was real prominent in making that program nationally known and really giving a lot of guys a lot of opportunities. But the stuff that I learned from those older coaches that were at the Atlanta Celtics, man, was priceless. You know, I still hold on to some of those things now. Man, earlier you spoke about, you know, you guys wanting to expand. Mm-hmm. I had an idea, man. I'm going to go ahead and let y'all have this idea.
Lay it on.
This is free.
All right.
Thinking about highlighting our guys. And this is just a question. It's not something that y'all have to do. But I always ask, why don't we have a middle school and high school all-star game at the end of the year?
Mhm. Yeah, it's something, and man, I can show you on my phone. I could screen grab my phone. The other night, I'm sitting there and I'm like, what? We used to have like the Basketball Coaches Association
Mhm.
all-star game at the end of the year, and I can remember going over to this gym in Murfreesboro and seeing Lester Wilson and some of these guys do dunk contests, but there was nobody there. No,
Yeah.
I mean not many people, and it's frustrating in Tennessee to see the lack of support for basketball that there should be.
Okay.
I think the opposite goes in Memphis. It's like its own state when it comes to
Right.
basketball and high school basketball. The passion that we have for football here is equal in Memphis with its basketball.
Right.
But in the mid-state and in East Tennessee, I think sometimes the talent that we have goes unappreciated, not only by the people who live here, but by college recruiters and things of that sort. What's happening over the last 5 years, though, is like we're seeing more respect come our way and more people paying attention to the BJ Edwards and Akeem Adesipes and Blue Kane and all these guys that are coming through, and not just at Catholic, but around the city that whether they're playing for B-Mays or Tennessee Fury or whatever it is, more and more people are starting to pay attention to East Tennessee basketball. And so I put together a list on notes mode the other night on my phone of just like, if I'm able to pull this off, these would be the guys that I would invite for an end of year all-star game in Knoxville. And while we probably couldn't have a full gym, we could stream it. You know, we could stream it on 5-Star Preps on social media. We've done that with football and basketball games, and so it's definitely doable. It's all about finding the right gym, finding the sponsors for it. And but yeah, it's on my mind too. And I like the middle school. I mentioned being able to see these kids before they become stars.
Right.
And that's why you started to see us do a little bit more middle school football, a little bit more middle school basketball, because now that they're playing right away as freshmen, I want to know who's going to be playing right away as freshmen.
Right.
So we got to go to some middle school football games this year, and we my daughter's in middle school now, so I'm starting to be able to see some of these games on these talent at the middle school level here in Knoxville. She's on the dance team, and so she dances at some games, and so I get to see some players here and there. But yeah, man, it's a good idea, and if we can do it, I'll give you a little credit. I'll throw some credit your way.
At least let me get in free.
Yeah, I'll get you. I'll get y'all in free. I'll get you on. Well, I'm gonna turn the tables on y'all, man. Y'all been doing this, and I've been watching what you're doing, and watching some of the podcasts and some of the YouTube videos. How are y'all enjoying being on the other side and being the ones asking the questions?
Linwood, I'll let you go first.
I figured that. Man, I love it, man. I love covering people. I love hearing people's story. I think when me and Jay started talking about this, it was just wanting to hear people's story, giving people an outlet to tell their story. And I think with that, we have been very successful, because, I mean, we're not doing it for the fame. We're not doing it for the fortune. We're just doing it just because we love talking about it.
Right. And I'll say too, man, for me, I guess sometimes, getting nervous a little bit and stuff like that. What questions am I going to ask? Am I asking the right questions?
Right.
Am I moving ahead too fast? All those things. But the one thing that I told Linwood is that what we want to stick with is just make it genuine. I had an idea. I was talking to Linwood, just telling him, man, we have, with all these things that are going on, right, in our community, in the country, I just keep thinking about, I know some great people. Like, I know a lot of people around this community that, like, I want to highlight. I want to talk about their lives and what they're doing, because their story can impact other people. So, like, for you, for instance, man, I thought of a phrase while you was talking, because you said you started out, you were doing the stats, at the Knox News Signal, and started from the bottom. Now you're here.
That's right, man. I mean,
you know what I'm saying?
That's
anybody can relate to that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's a process and an experience I think is lost on kids nowadays, man. They see how the college guys and the pros are acting on social media, and so they want to do exactly what everybody else is doing without putting in the work, and being that being that star on social media without putting in the work to be that star. And so I see it in journalism too. I see these kids coming out of college, and people start following them a little bit and seeing what they're about on social media, and all of a sudden, they think they're the experts and the ones that have seen it all and know it all. So it's a scary time, but man, yeah, I mean, it's putting in that work it's what it's all about, and being genuine, like you guys said, is what I think is going to attract people to you guys. And everybody's got a story, whether they were the star player or whether they're the role player. And I've watched a few of y'all's episodes with Dre and Coach Rosser, and I'm learning stuff about these guys that I thought I knew everything about them, but I didn't. And so it's y'all think of questions that I may not have asked or another person may not have asked, and so it's fun, man. It's fun to get to learn about these people that we rub shoulders with out in our community.
Sure. Yes, we got a lot more in store. But since you asked that question, I got a question for you. It's gonna be a tough.
Okay.
All the players in basketball you have covered. I need a starting five, Jesse.
Ooh, basketball.
Basketball, yes, sir. All the ones you've covered.
I'm gonna come at it like this. If I'm putting together a team I want to win a championship with, can I at least get a 6-man?
Yeah,
can I get a 6-man?
You can have a 6-man. 6-man is important.
All right. My point guard, man, has got to be Dre. Watching him in high school and what he was able to accomplish in college and then become a pro and how he's handled himself. Even back in high school, man, he was so close to averaging a triple-double. And so I'm going to go with him as my point guard. I'm going to go Jalen Steele as my 2 guard. Small forward, my 3. My 3 is probably going to be Lester.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I got to go Lester there. My 4. Golly, man, y'all put me on the spot. I don't think about stuff like this. I'm trying to remember all the names. I know I'm going to miss somebody. I'll go my big man. I'm gonna go with Trevay Pryor. Y'all remember Trevay?
We done got a dog, Jesse.
You got to have somebody like that. He you had to love or hate Trevay Pryor, man. There were some games where he was just unstoppable and dominant, and then there's other games where he might disappear a little bit, but that guy just had worlds of potential. He was 6'6", so he wasn't going to play post on the D1 level, but in this area, he was hard to handle.
The left-handed jump shot, man, yeah, he was special.
He was hard to handle, but man, my 4. There was a player at Bearden back in when they had like DeMonte Simpson and Rico, and his name was you're gonna have to help me with it was Nathan
Parker.
Yeah.
There that name go again, Coach.
His physique and his body and what he was able to do. I really projected him to do big things in college. It didn't work out for him that way. I think he ended up going to Wofford or something like that. But I always thought like that guy could be something special on the college level. And man, as a 6-man, I could throw anybody in there. James Gallman as a defender, man, was just nasty. He'd get up in you and he could shoot it from 3. And you give me those 6 guys and I'm going to win a lot of ball games. But recently Quez Glover,
yeah, sure.
He's up there in the GOAT conversation, man. Or what I saw him do against all those Memphis teams in the state tournament, and just, man, he's got some dog. He's got some killer in him, and just the shots that he hits and just the attitude he plays with, you can't replicate that. You can't teach that, man. And that's going to will you to a lot of wins. So I know I'm leaving a bunch of people out that I've covered that were special, but those are 6 that just kind of came to mind.
That Trevay Pryor was a steal.
Oh man, yeah, that was a good one, Coach. He went and got him somebody real tough and mean.
Like the Jones twins that were there. They were good players, and
yes,
and it was just like I mentioned, that 07 to 11 time frame was just awesome to be around and be a part of. And now we're seeing some new wave. I mean, BJ Edwards could be in that top 6 easily.
Yeah.
And so going to give him a little bit more time to
Right.
marinate and develop. But man, it's been some special athletes come here for real.
For sure, man. Shout out to BJ, man. I've kind of known BJ or known about BJ since I want to say since he was about in 5th grade.
Mm-hmm.
And just watch him progress, move to Knoxville and get better. I want to say this about him, man. He's a good basketball player, but he has his head on straight. Yeah. He's a very humble kid, man. He's a very humble kid. So anything that BJ gets, man, I think he deserves it. So I look forward to seeing him blossom even more in the future.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things you're starting to see him do is develop his body and get it to that level where it needs to be for him to be able to come in and play right away. Not only play right away, but be a starter right away in college. And I think back to his freshman year when they were in District 4 at the time. They weren't in Division 2. They were in District 4 AAA. And so, they're having to go up against Joe Anderson out at Maryville and Quez Glover out at Bearden. And, you could see him taking his lumps because he was a freshman at the time.
Yeah. Right.
Quez was blowing him up a little bit, but BJ would still get his jumpers in too and his points in too. And so you could just see that learning process happening right there of him getting comfortable and seeing what it looks like up and close to what the dominant guards have to play like night in and night out. And his freshman year, he was still remarkable. And then you saw it go to another level last year. And now I watched him a few times this year, man. It's almost too easy for him. It's gotten to that point where, he only has to expend 60 to 70% effort to still be dominant on the high school level. We still hadn't seen the best of BJ Edwards yet. I'm convinced of that.
But the one thing I remember was the IMG game. Mm-hmm. I called Jay and I called Jazz and said, BJ Edwards is the best player on the floor. He was the best player on the floor, hands down.
Yeah, there was no question. And you could see that all night long. And I think him playing the AAU basketball against some of those guys and some familiarity with those guys, he wasn't going to be intimidated in that.
Oh, no.
So the longer that they hung around and built that confidence throughout the game, man, he really started to open up and show what he was about.
For sure. Here's a fun fact. Guys, if you look at BJ, right? You see how he moves on the basketball court and all that. Guys, as a youngster, that man on the football field,
untouchable.
Ooh, man, guys, I'm serious, man. I think he could go out there right now, right? With a year of, getting a couple things tight, this, that, and the other. And he will be a force. He will be a force on the football field as a wide receiver. Right now.
There's just some athletes, man, that are just gifted like that. It doesn't matter. Yeah. They pick up a baseball bat, they throw a football, it doesn't matter. And LeBron James, Allen Iverson, you see all their highlights from the different sports that they played. So yeah, I miss that a little bit though. I definitely understand the merit of AAU basketball and training year round, but I miss seeing some guys like BJ play football or baseball and being able to see what they're capable of. Because I grew up in that era of Bo Jackson and Deion Sanders, and it was just fun to watch them do that. And sadly, we don't get to see as much of that. But it's just kind of the evolution of the sports and of the evolution of the athletes. But I believe you. I mean, I still hear stories about how James Gallman could have been an unbelievable baseball player.
Baseball player. He was way better at baseball than he was basketball.
And so people tell me stories about that, and that's the fun stuff. That's the fun stuff about sports, and just hearing all these stories about what guys were able to accomplish maybe outside of the spotlight and what they could have been. But yeah, I believe you about BJ. I'd like to see some. Is there any old school videos of him playing football out there anywhere?
I don't know. We may have to get in contact with Tiffany to see, with his mom, to see if we could, if she has. I'm pretty sure she has some type of old footage of him, of him playing. And while we were on the topic of two sport guys, man, I wanted to shout out two guys that I know of. If I'm not mistaken, both of these guys were all state. Jacoby Gillespie was all state in basketball last year, and now he's all state. He was all state cornerback this year in football. and Micah Simpson out at is it Mo East?
Yeah, Mo East. Yeah, man. He got on the football field this year, and I think he had 35 catches, and 15 of those were touchdowns. And so, that dude's like 6 feet tall, but his wingspan's like 6'6". I mean,
Yeah.
it's crazy. And so he's got these long arms, and so it puts him in a good spot on a football field where you can jump ball, throw it down into the corner of the end zone. He's going to win a lot of those battles. And Jacoby, man, we wrote about this the other day, man. He's taking his basketball game to a different level this year.
Yeah,
sure.
I think he played a little bit in the shadows of that Reed Satterfield kid a little bit last year, but I mean, he's taking it to a different level this year on the basketball court. And so it's going to be fun to see kind of what happens with him in recruiting, whether he tends to go to a football or a basketball route. And who knows, man, maybe somebody gives him the opportunity to do both.
Man, that would be awesome, man. That's somebody that's near and dear to me and Wood's hearts, man. We don't watch that young man grow up, man. It's kind of like Quez. It's funny because Jacoby Gillespie and Quez Glover are kind of similar to me because they both grew up being the smallest guy on the team, smallest guy in the gym, this, that, and the other. And, you look up, same thing with Quez, you look up by 11th grade, he's the guy doing windmills playing above the rim.
Mm-hmm.
And now here comes Kobe Gillespie coming down the lane, 2 hands,
Mm-hmm.
So, shout out to those guys, man. But Coach, I got one for you, man. I got one more. I got another one for you. It's the fourth quarter, football. We on football now. It's the fourth quarter, 2 minutes to go in the game. We down by 5. Who is the quarterback taking you down the field?
Ooh.
Who is the clutch?
From any time?
Give me, man.
Because if it's from any time, I mean, I already know my guy, and it's not going to shock anybody to hear me say Charlie High from CAK.
I heard that.
2-time Mr. Football winner, beat Alcoa. They played Alcoa 4 times from 2011 and 2012, and they beat Alcoa 3 times. And that dude made some crazy plays fighting off of Alcoa defensive linemen chasing him and linebackers chasing him. And, he broke all the records in the book, national records, state records. I mentioned they won 2 state championships. That guy proved time in and time out that, he was clutch and could win the big game. And so I'd ride with him. But, man, there's been, when you talk about quarterbacks in the area, there's been some really good ones. Your Randall Cobb, he was a quarterback in high school, Mr. Football winner. And, we've had Elite 11 quarterbacks in the area that have gone on to play in the SEC. And so, but yeah, I mean, if I got to go with one quarterback, it's not going to shock anybody that knows me to pick Charlie High. I used to get a bunch of crap on social media because I'd always hype him up and, you're Charlie's boy and mouthpiece. But man, I'm just telling you about what I see on the field.
It looked good.
Yeah.
I mean, and it was just it's undeniable about what he was doing. So yeah, I mean, that guy was special. And now I think he's down on staff in the recruiting office down at Central Florida. And so I still keep in contact with him a little bit here and there. If there's a guy in our area that, I think might fit them, I'll shoot him a text and say, hey, take a look at this kid. So it just all goes back to, like we talked about, those relationships, those kids you learn about and write about, and you keep in touch with them. And, maybe we can help out a kid that's in high school now, hook him up with, somebody from our community in a different state or a different school. So it's all connected. It's all one big network.
For sure.
Got a network.
So I got to bring up something else. I was excited to see 5-star preps come about, but sadly to say, you started covering right after I left Vine. I was so hurt about it, man. Let me explain why. Wood knows where I'm going with this because me and him would talk about these things on a nightly basis. A lot of people think that, Coach, we just talk about the wins and losses, but me and Wood, I know for sure through our friendship and our bond, it was more than the winning. We wanted our teams to be successful because we felt like if we put a good product out there on the court and we provided the community with a respectful group of young men that were doing something positive, that it would bring some excitement to the community. and some positivity or whatnot. So that was my whole thing at Vine. You know, I want to win for East Knoxville and that community and those kids in our school. So when we started having a lot of success, I would call Wood. I'm like, man, Wood, we haven't lost a road game in 2 years and nobody's saying anything. Like, it wasn't for me. I wanted them to come and talk about the kids and highlight the kids so that they could feel good about it. So a year after I leave, one night I get on the internet. Wood, I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm gonna be totally honest with you right now. I was jealous as I don't know what. I said, he got my write-ups.
Yeah, I mean,
but it was good to see because it's all family though, you know.
You know, the crazy thing is, and I've made mention of this to my writers and photographers, anytime we go to a middle school thing, a game, an event, there are more people there, there's more energy there. And I don't know if it's because like all the parents and all that stuff maybe still believe at that point as a 6th, 7th, or 8th grader that, you know, their kid's gonna be the next star. So they're totally invested.
Yeah.
But man, we've gone to these Tennessee, Kentucky future all-star football games, and we did galleries, and man, it just blew up. And then we go out to cover Whittles, and it just blew up. You know, everybody wanted to see these pictures, and because, like you mentioned, nobody's doing it.
No.
And so again, we try to be tactful about it and not, you know, overdo it. So we're still testing the waters here and there, but and it's all also about resources too. Just, you know, having the money to pay these guys, photographers and writers, to go out and cover middle school while we're doing high school stuff as well is kind of a difficult juggling act to do. So, but yeah, I was excited to go out there and catch the Kimbers and Tyler and not only see them play, but, you know, the kids from other school systems that, you know, we're going to be seeing in the future. And so hopefully we can keep doing it more and get this COVID over with and being able to get back to normal and getting out in the gyms and getting out in the community some more.
Hey, Linwood, could you imagine what I would have did if Jesse Smithey and them would have came with them campers at a Vine at Vine though, Coach?
I'm scared to know what you would have done.
Woo, man, I would have been excited. But no.
3 numbers on that board on your side.
That's right. But no, seriously though, man, I thought it was a good thing because another thing, looking at Memphis, when me and Linwood were considering, you know, like what's the competition like on the other side as far as school ball. I mean, I literally could get on the internet and pull stuff up and see highlights of some of the best teams in Memphis and the guys calling the kids' names out, you know, just like the news, just like a news report. So I was excited about that, but I get it why the resources will be kind of short for it, especially with all this high school stuff.
Like I mentioned, we still got a lot of plans that we want to do and things we want to accomplish at 5-Star Preps, and that's just continue to grow and make it bigger. And I don't think on small scale, I think on big scale. That's just the nature. I like to make a splash and do things big and grab people's attention. And so I'm always trying to think of fresh and new ways to do that. And so hopefully down the line, we have that 5-Star Preps middle school, you know, part of the website where you can just go and find out all the information you want for middle school. And if you want to do it in high school, you know, that's going to be there as well. So we're still not even 3 years old yet. So we still got big plans and hopefully we can keep growing it.
Sure.
He had to come cover me, Jay, man. I'm the only coach in Knoxville history that's got a banner with 24-0 in 2 schools as a player and a coach.
I bet you hadn't heard that before, right?
I've heard it several.
You ain't heard that before, Jay? You ain't know that?
I've heard it several times. But I actually, man, I enjoy watching Linwood's process. You know, same thing. Start from the bottom and then rise to the top. You know, get it, earn it. You know, everything was earned, nothing was given. But Jesse, man, I'm gonna be honest with you, man. I have thoroughly enjoyed you, brother.
Yes. Man, I appreciate y'all having me on, man. It's like I mentioned, I've been watching what you're doing and enjoyed it. So I was glad that y'all reached out and wanted to have me on. And
sure, man.
If somewhere down the line you want to do it again, just shoot me a text.
Man, we're gonna get back with you after you use all them gems I dropped you. After you go and grow the brand after using all them gems I dropped you, then we'll bring you back on.
All right, we'll do it.
And also, man, we gotta get at you, man. We gotta get you one of these Power Forward hoodies, man. So maybe when you out in the community, you can represent for us.
All right, we'll do it. We'll do a trade. I'll get y'all 5-star preps hoodies when we get some in, and we're supposed to be getting some in soon. So we'll trade up.
Definitely, man. I'm definitely excited for that. Hey, Jesse, man, we appreciate you so much, man. We look forward to 5-star prep and the growth of it, man.
All right, guys. I appreciate the kind words and enjoyed chatting, and we'll do it again sometime for sure.
For sure, man. Take care, Jesse.
All right, we'll see y'all.
All right, man. Later.